Hey everybody, this here is the Malcontent, and welcome to another live stream of the Malcontentment Tango. I'm not 100% sure where we are, to be really candid. We are with Everyday March, and Everyday March is doing their Everyday March. I don't know, the last couple of times I've been like, hey, we're gonna cover Everyday March. They go drive somewhere, so straight up, I have no idea why we're here. I have only a vague idea of why we're here, and only because I see a lot of flowers and a lot of candles. So I think we're here to set up a memorial. And I know there's like all this intrigue and all. But that's what I know. And what we're going to do next here is I'm going to flip the camera around, and we're going to send it up, and I'm just going to check the quality of the stream.
September, and so far there were 20 felony charges against protesters that he wasn't allowing to be a sponge for the record. So since we are out here every single day yelling for y'all protesters, we came to give him a visit and let him know that he needs to. I do have some more with those cases. He related the ones like people that were shooting protesters and called that protest related, which it's not. Daniel has never, besides one time in Auburn, and that was 2009, close to this year, charged any officers for anything It was this year? Okay. This year, that was his first and only time he's ever charged a police officer for any type of manslaughter or any type of murder.
And no bail. He's asked for no bail on that officer. And the judge was like, you're out of your freaking mind, no bail. And he showed up on a second-degree murder charge on a summons. He wasn't put into, which the judge also was gobsmacked.
This officer also had 2 previous accounts of murdering somebody, but he is the King County prosecutor, therefore he does oversee, his office does oversee everything that's happening. And he claims to let people vote if they're peacefully protesting, which is bullshit. There is no correct way to protest. So if we could just make noise for him, and again, if you guys want to send him an email, there is actually a template that you guys can, and I can post it later so that I don't have to dig it up right now, but there's a template that you can send him telling him to free all protesters and to not charge any of them, because he, as a white man, doesn't get to fucking decide what's good protesting for a Black Lives Matter movement. Like, literally, that's fucking insane. He's this weird-looking ass white man who has, like, the smallest head and the biggest forehead, and it's, like, all very squished into a tiny face. And I just don't think he should be the one to decide. Who do you want to say hi to?
You charged one cop for one murder he committed. But you let two spoilers. All people of color. But you only get them for one.
So, if you've heard some of that, we're at King County Prosecutor Daniel Sattenberg's hood. And
the day after he said he wasn't going to arrest him, he and Bert got to resign from Seattle Police Department.
Also didn't arrest the murderers of Ship Taylor as well.
Those guys are, matter of fact,
no one.
Michael Spaulding just was at somebody's house for a disturbance call. Literally, Michael Spaulding is still a cop. He's one of the officers that killed Shay Taylor. Scott Miller's the other one. Michael Spaulding was literally just at somebody's house harassing him for a disturbance call. There's nothing about that. He wants to prosecute protesters for expressing how they feel, allegedly.
hello, Canada. Thank you.
It's wrong, but in all reality, how do you get the right to tell somebody how to express themselves? When you say, well, they're committing these violent crimes, well, the police been committing violent crimes for centuries, and you ain't did shit about it. For over 10 years here in Seattle, you ain't did shit about it. So don't try to say, oh, these protesters are doing wrong. The police been doing wrong, so what's your answer for that? Literally. You have no excuse for it.
There has been over 500 charges since he has been the King County prosecutor for people assaulting police officers, and there has not been one charge of a police officer assaulting. And like, raise your hand if, I don't know if this is going to be a good number, but raise your hand if you've been assaulted by a police officer within this movement. Has anybody gotten that police officer charge that assaulted you? No?
I didn't even, why would I even bother?
Yeah?
I feel like,
Yeah?
I'm actually filed suit for mine, but I'm and it's a 3-year statute of limitations, so I'm gonna pursue that one of these days when I have time again.
And I will say for the record, for me personally, I never filed an OPA complaint over my little incident with Mike Solon, because my view in filing an OPA complaint on that is it would be just completely a useless process.
I like what you did there.
They set this kid's bail at $225,000. Raise your hand if you have this money.
Shit, I've had bail higher than that.
For real?
I have 300 grams.
That's shit.
He does that.
And for something that was, I'm not even gonna say the alleged parking, this is bullshit. And then the same time, you know, the officer who had zero bail, you know, like, that makes zero fucking sense. This kid is a houseless individual. There's no way that they could have paid that. I mean, and then, so when they didn't get the $225,000, it was lowered to $75,000. But still, like, raise your hand if you have $75,000.
He does.
Okay. That's what I'm saying, like, that's some shit right there. You know, for a kid, you're gonna just, there's a video actually, I don't know if y'all follow Tia, photographer, they've been with us for a long time, but they just like, they skipped over the white person in the car and were like, oh, we want you. And that's when they got him. And it's just like, I'm just saying, when I was younger and coming up, you know, hearing about things that happen, it's like, oh no, you know, people say like this is the way it is, and maybe this is not the way it is. But no, it's fucking racist. It's exactly what it looks like all the time. There's never like, oh, maybe it's just this. It's never like that. And to wake up to that reality every day is like, I don't have words for it. But that is the shittiness of Dan Sugarberg.
Hey, Dan, you want to come explain yourself, bro? I mean, we see you tiptoeing around in there like you're a little church mouse and shit. Come tiptoe out here, man. It's not that far of a walk. You got a mask in there. We'll stay 6 feet apart. Come on, bro.
I think this also goes hand in hand of what I was saying earlier. Washington is a blue state. You know, when we look at blue as more progressive and such, blue's going to care about these minorities and black lives and indigenous lives and people of color and immigrants. I think that they would care because they're blue, because blue is painted as the gooder party, right? For us is what we think it is. But here we are living in a blue state, and we have this asshole who is literally never charged a cop for assault and is attempting to fully what I feel like should be locked away in prison, thrown away, and not even doing that for this killing in Auburn in 2019. He is a shitty man, and that is a blue man. That is a blue life.
And just trying to ruin people's lives, like Brother Jonathan Berry, that kid's like 20, whatever. Yeah, like what the fuck, trying to ruin lives, you know? And I'm sure there are many other cases, you can look them up. I mean, you can, they're doing really fucking fire, that's a problem as well. But just like young kids getting locked up for nothing, ruining their lives. You know what I'm saying? And that actually, that plays into genocide. Do y'all know about genocide? Y'all know what constitutes that?
Oh no, they have to move
breaking
and stuff.
families.
Y'all know if somebody needs an ambulance, there's 4 elderly people that live down here, and an ambulance comes down this road a good bit.
Hey, we'll definitely move for them.
Y'all have to move the car.
We'll move for them if they come. We'll move.
What'd you say?
We'll move when they come. If they come, we'll move. No problems.
Okay.
No issues.
Okay, I'm glad it wouldn't be your mother that said that down there waiting on an ambulance for some people that want to protest to move their damn truck.
Hey,
Oh, we'll move it. No problem.
don't, hey, ambulance ain't never had a problem over here,
No
friend.
problem.
Chill.
Have a good night.
Hey, I started the Black Lives Matter movement.
What the fuck? All right,
All right, so if you're wondering where we are, we have found Antifa headquarters right outside of Dan Sattenberg's house. We have it on audio. We are outside Antifa headquarters at Dan Sattenberg's house. This gentleman here is claiming he started Black Lives Matter. He lives here in the hood. Breaking news. You heard it here first.
Lines, please don't get on private property.
Hey, all right, everybody back over here. Everybody back this way.
Hey, watch the property lines.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! 100% at least! 100% at least!
I gotta say, 148 days of covering. That was one of the wildest, craziest things I ever heard.
Black Lives Matter! To black communities! To black communities! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
We got a little confused. We're just such in awe that the founder of Black Lives Matter is here. And by the way, I'm being sarcastic. The founder of Black Lives Matter is not here. Just to qualify that. So, just to explain some stuff about Dan Satterberg, like I was talking earlier. What I was talking about was the Jesse Saray case. So Jeff Nelson was a police officer out of Auburn, Washington. Jeff Nelson has killed 3 people in the line of duty in the span of 8 years. All 3 of the kills were identical. It involved somebody with a knife. It involved him doing a headshot. In 2017, the city of Auburn, in that case, settled with the family for $1.25 million. Jesse Saray was having a mental health crisis, and he was in a 67-second encounter with Jeff Nelson. Jesse Saray was shot twice, once in the abdomen, which was actually the fatal killing shot, and then shot in the head. Jeff Nelson actually pulled the trigger 3 times in the span of under 4 seconds. The gun jammed on the second pull. He cleared his weapon and discharged the 3rd round right into Jesse Saray's forehead. He was charged after a lengthy investigation with 2nd-degree murder and felony assault. He was brought into court on a summons. So a summons is, hey, just show up to court. And Dan Satterberg requested no bail, to the horror of the judge. And we covered this when this was happening, and the judge admonished the prosecutors for having Jeff Nelson come in on a summons for second-degree murder and for asking for no bail. Elaine Simon, who was Jesse Surrey's foster mom, made an impassioned plea for bail to be set at $1.5 million, as that would be appropriate and proportionate to other people facing similar charges. The judge set bail at $500,000, and if Jeff Nelson were to make bail, he would be subject to being under ankle monitoring and house arrest. However, we then learned that King County only monitors people with their ankle bracelets for home detention from 7 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday. There is nobody monitoring outside of those hours or the weekends. He had to surrender his passport. He said he didn't have one. He had to surrender all weapons. And he lost his ability to be a police officer. So, incredibly, through this whole investigation, Jeff Nelson was still a law enforcement officer. In the time that Jeff Nelson was a police officer with Auburn, Washington, there were 5 different people killed in a city of about 82,000 people by law enforcement, and of those, 3 people were killed by Jeff Nelson. And we've covered this story extensively, and we are continuing to cover that, and the next court hearing for Jeff Nelson is on November 17th. And I know that Christina D has done some coverage of this too, because this is the 10 courthouses in her wheelhouse. We also did on Happy Hour, we covered King County and their prosecution numbers and how they operate. Hey, the auto club's here, it looks like. Yeah, that's just exactly.
It's just the way it's, I mean, yeah.
So police have arrived, but there is no aggressive posturing or anything like that. It appears there's 2 law enforcement officers that are here. To be candid, I don't know if this is King County officers or Kent or couldn't tell you.
Because you said you looked at stuff about like everyday murder. We've had people hurt even yesterday. Like we've had so many things happen to us. And these cars.
So you're basically trying to protect them.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we will.
Oh, I can understand that.
If an ambulance pull up, or any emergency vehicle, we will move these cars in.
So it's more like protection.
Yeah, there's people who's in the car. That's why the hazards on.
If you can talk to like EMTs in Seattle, he has the best record for getting out of the way for ambulances. Like they don't even
guys are
organized.
you're peaceful. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that a little bit deeper thought process into maybe. I know that the police they do good things too, right? Well, if somebody's breaking into your house or somebody's doing something about it, so then what do?
They come after, they don't prevent that crime.
Speaking from experience, they come hours later and tell you to fill out a report, and then nothing happens.
Yeah, everyone has it.
All right, sure. That's what I'm saying.
Taken away.
You have it. So you're right. You could fight a crime. You can prevent a crime from happening if someone breaks into your house.
Right.
You're saying after this person breaks into your house. If you were there, probably had a gun, there's some damage in the process of this already. You know what I mean? This person bleed already, but the damage is already done. You know what I mean? there's nothing, they did nothing to prevent that from happening. Your family's traumatized. Whatever happened is gone. Everything is lost. But you already could protect yourself. That's why they gave us that right. So you have everything you need. Bang, bang. That person's taken care of. I'm serious. Cops don't fight crime. They come there when it's over. You fight crime. You prove yourself. So I'm serious. I have never seen a situation where a cop fought a crime. Cops, you call the cops when a bank is broken into. Aftermath, you know what I mean?
Well, they drive around like our normally part police.
Yeah,
the officers drive around.
To pull over teenagers that's like getting high for the first time. I'm serious. Listen to this. It's a lot of kids up that's gone. Indigenous kids and people of color, bro. And then even white. That's the type of shit that they do. That's the type of that's where their work comes in. But real crime is committing crime. Everyone's just committing crime. It's killing people.
There's a lot of people that put out like 50 murderers from the jail because are not murderers but alleged murderers, right?
Yeah.
Because of
They have the right to kill someone. They're murderers.
not necessarily. If you kill in self-defense, that's not murder.
There's no way.
Trayvon Martin, who literally started all this. Like, Trayvon Martin, you know who Trayvon Martin is?
Trayvon Martin was, that's the,
I don't know how much you can hear over the chanting.
and that was George Zimmerman, right? I actually talked to the lawyer that was part of
Yeah, and I've
dealing
talked
with
to
that case.
his family, his parents. I know them personally, Sabrina.
Right.
But when you think about, oh, it was in self-defense, it was a little boy, but because of the color of his skin, people get away with it. Another example, we had
Well, wait a
officer.
minute. If you want to talk about that, the facts are, and this was determined in the court case, in that particular case, is that Trayvon Martin was on top of George Zimmerman and banging his head into the concrete. Okay, the only reason why
George Zimmerman followed him multiple blocks, and literally even on
But maybe
the
he
phone
was-
they said stop following him, stop following him. So things like that.
Yeah, I don't.
Like you
I don't
follow
know
a little
that.
boy with a gun, he's
I
going
don't
to
know
try to
the
protect
hazy.
himself.
That's hazy in my mind
Yeah,
because
I'm
I haven't
looking
read everything.
What about
for
Tamir
sure.
Rice?
But my point is, yeah, I mean, to assume something is not a good thing, right? Just because I see something, I can't necessarily assume something
And to
is
take
bad
someone's
going
life,
on.
though.
But when say there is, say there's a segment of society in a certain area, or wherever it is, and they have a predominant reputation for something. I'm not saying what color it is or anything. I'm just saying just the people, right?
Yeah.
If that's carried on, it's drawing attention to something, right? Whatever it is. No, I mean, there's plenty of places where white people are targeted too.
Really? Where?
Well, down in Mississippi, right?
Did you hear her question?
I mean, when
That white people are being targeted.
well, I don't know, targeted, but I mean, they're the minority, right?
So are they being targeted by cops?
Well, I don't know
what
that
I'm
for
trying to
sure.
say,
I'm just saying, I'm just making a logical
It can
argument.
be logical because it has to make sense, and it won't ever
I'm
make
saying, I mean,
Renee Davis was killed by
all
police
this
because of a mental
group,
illness.
whether they're whatever,
Walter Waller
they're
Jr.
creating problems.
Walter
they're
Waller,
getting
Walter
attention.
Wallace
I'm not-
Jr. was
Yeah.
killed
I'm not saying
because
black,
of a
white, or
mental
whatever.
illness. So it's
Black
imperative
just-
that I'm
just
serious
because they're black people.
because I really want to know like
And the
how many
ghetto- the
people
ghetto
with
doesn't
mental
stand
illnesses
for,
do you guys encounter
ratchet
and how
or
do you guys
whatever,
respond?
or loose or like destroyed or dirty.
Us as
The
in
ghetto
Normandy
stand- this
Park.
is the ghetto.
Yeah, you guys right here personally, you two. Yeah, personally.
You guys are all the same. Make
As
about the
officers,
same amount.
with
I
that,
don't
I
know.
don't know.
Are you fucking kidding me? That's a life or death, and you don't fucking know
Come on,
how to
bro.
respond to people with mental illnesses. You
Somebody,
don't know.
Walter Wallace
You
Jr.
don't
was just
know.
killed because of a mental disorder he had. Walter Wallace Jr. was just killed because.
Hard. It's not basic.
Why would
How
I
don't
treat
you
you
know?
any fucking way? Why would you get treated?
How don't you know though? That shouldn't have. You should know more than that.
Basic house.
You should, that the first response shouldn't have been, I don't know.
And this is the
You
block
asked me
that's
how
on,
many
so
we
it's like-
encounter.
Okay.
I said, I don't know.
Okay.
This place
So,
would never.
when the
be
ones you
like
do
the
encounter,
most, like,
what is your
arresting your
response?
son for walking
Personally,
down
to
the
dealing
block
with those
because
situations,
there's
is to walk
suspicion
up,
that
tough
there's
guy
drug
with your hand
dealers
on your
this
gun?
block and stuff like
Or
that.
no,
You know what I
how do
mean?
you respond?
That's
I
what
want
they
to know,
do.
like
I'm
genuinely.
serious. They do go into communities
usually
that
try
they
to stay
push us
calm,
into,
voice
and then
low,
they see
try to
like,
understand
just me walking
what
down the block
exactly
with
is
how I
wrong.
am
Are
right
they
now,
in
and just because
what
it's
type of mental
suspicion,
crisis
I
are
would
they
get
in?
pulled over.
That's
You know
a
what I mean?
big,
That's
big
how it
difference
works.
because somebody
in the
who's
ghetto, there's a
autistic
lot of drug
and
dealers.
somebody
In
who's
all
having
ghettos,
like a
there's
bipolar
drug dealers
breakdown
here.
are
There's
two
drug
very
dealers here,
different
but
situations.
just because
right?
it's
So-
a white
more
predominant
high-end,
area, it's a
sorry.
white predominant
Wait,
area.
let them finish.
It's real. It's white predominant area, so
Thanks for reminding them they need it.
black drivers.
No, go ahead,
they
finish.
should come out.
Go ahead, finish.
They should definitely
It's just,
be out
it's
here.
truth though, bro. Because
They're
you
not.
guys,
I don't know.
you guys do kill bones.
I would love to engage in discourse with you,
It's only one.
but it seems that
You is all of us.
Yeah, that's
You is
right.
all of us.
Yeah.
Because I don't do no talking about this one especially. That
You're
goes
not
without
gonna
saying.
answer questions coming from a bunch of people that are constantly harassed by police because you're too scared. You're too scared to step out of your comfort level.
It's not that
Well,
I'm scared.
imagine us. Imagine us.
Because you're afraid of pushback?
Imagine
Because you're
us.
afraid to be pushed back on what you're saying?
I like reasonable discourse, a conversation.
Bro, that's pushback. That's called pushback. It's called, I can disagree with you and still say what I have to say. And that doesn't mean that the conversation means any less. It's just called pushback.
No, I understand that, but when statements like, you know, you're not supposed to shoot those people are being made, it's
That's
insinuating.
the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth because police in America do
That's
do
what
that.
I'm saying.
It is
I
the truth.
tried. I
Don't
tried.
run away from
No,
the
I
truth.
haven't seen.
Yeah, they
That's
shoot
not
white
trying.
people, too,
That's
though.
not trying.
They do. They do.
And that's not okay either.
Because they're doing something.
That's not okay either.
Yes, they do.
Wait, they do shoot and kill white people.
yeah.
But disproportionately, they shoot, kill black, brown, and indigenous people at a higher fucking rate.
But it doesn't
Yeah,
mean
not-
that.
Look
we
at
never
the
said that.
stats
We
and
never
the
said that.
reasons for it. There's
We never
actually a
said
website
that.
that you can actually look. You can do age, race, and the place, and look at why that person was shot, killed, arrested. You can put in the type of crime. Do your research first. White people are killed. More of y'all, but there are more of y'all. Yes, white people. And the fact that you're not enraged that they're killing your people, that's a fucking shame. The fact that you're not enraged that they're killing your kind. Because I'm pissed off that they're killing mine, and I'm gonna stand behind mine regardless. Just because you don't give a fuck about your tribe doesn't mean we don't got to.
And that's your law enforcement.
We don't want cops killing
This is your law
anybody.
enforcement.
How do you know I don't
It's been
care?
repeating itself for centuries,
show
dude.
it.
It's been historically proven. Like, I'm gonna give you an education lesson. Everybody says, oh, all lives matter and we all have the same opportunities. Okay, so historically we don't. See, because historically, if you look at history,
Bye, pigs!
that's actually fact.
The cops always go oink, 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 sorry, baby. Oink, oink, oink.
Let her finish. No, but let her finish.
Historically proven, every time black people do their own thing and actually amount some type of wealth or some type of stability for themselves, guess what happens? Just imagine, just guess what happens. Can you guess? Do we all want to tell them what happened?
I think what they're asking you to do is a little bit of introspection because of what our country was initially
There's
built
multiple
on.
conversations going on, and I would rather go with the conversation with law enforcement.
As a man, follow orders. I never followed orders as a man. As a person, follow orders. Go ahead.
Wait.
Walk up
I
the
do
hill.
have a quick
Just walk up the
question.
hill.
You're
Follow
welcome to
orders.
walk
Look,
up
you
with
can't
me.
even stop to talk. I'm not gonna move because I didn't get orders to move. Follow orders, all right? I love that you're following.
It shows how much you have to learn, sir. It shows how much you have to learn.
I was just
It
saying
shows how
you
much
should
you
do
have
some
to learn.
introspection. That's what people want you to do here. And you're standing there and like not doing it.
There's cops left.
Don't be mad at black people for fighting for their people.
I can't tell you how to be introspective because you do that yourself.
All right, so I think I'm gonna. There's two police officers up here that seem to be at least somewhat interested in talking, and I think that's what I'm gonna try and do. I think I'm gonna try and go up here and see if the officers want to talk, because it's a perspective, right, that we generally have not taken, and there's a couple of legal observers up here, so it at least gives me a degree of comfort level and seeing if they want to have the conversation or not. Well, I don't know where they went. I don't know if they're in their vehicle. Well, hey. Well, candidly, I don't know where the police officers went. It's pretty dark. Oh, I see him now.
They are on the front line. We have 3
And they're going into their vehicles, and so that's that. So we'll just go back. All right, so we're going back.
I know I'm asking a question.
So
what am I supposed to do for you to feel like that I sympathize, that I empathize, that I care?
Well, it takes for you to use
I mean, how do you know that I'm already not doing that? I mean,
because
you're
because you came out,
That's
you're
what cops
standing
do
here
every time they
that's the
feel
way
a
that
life
you
choice.
did. And then
talking to
talking
the way that I did. How did I talk to you?
You weren't caring when you say, oh, but they're killing black people too. That's like, come on now. That's like saying, okay, like you just got shot and like, oh, but I have a Band-Aid on my mosquito bite. You understand? Do you understand? That's not
anybody who's killed by
it's a false
somebody
equivalency.
it's how do you want to describe it? It's not a good thing, right?
Not at all.
Real quick.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Darren.
Darren. Nice to meet you. I'm Cynthia. Darren, what do you think of how many police have been killing black people? Just like this summer alone. You have Ahmed Aubrey, you have Floyd, you have Breonna Taylor. You, like, literally, the list goes on. Like, I think I lost count at 34 people, and that was in September.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, anytime a life is lost, it's
No, but just specifically, let's talk about police, not all lives.
Police killing black people.
I'm saying, yeah. I mean, okay, if you just want to talk about
police killing
lives
black
that are
people.
lost, where police have killed people, or people have died.
Not people have died. It's police.
You know,
have
because I mean, some of them could be legitimate self-defense on the part of, I don't know. I haven't researched every single incident, right?
What are your thoughts on police brutality?
Well, I don't know that most police officers are intent on brutality, and that's the way they're thinking about what their job is. I really don't see that.
So even if
I mean, I've known police officers, both white and black police officers. Okay, more than one black police officer.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? I heard you say that you haven't done a lot of research on the cases where people died, and you feel like it was wait 1 second, I'm not done. You feel like it was self-defense. So can I hear about the ones that you did do your research on, where you found out that indeed in your research and investigation it was self-defense? Can you say their names of the black people killed?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Darren, but you thought Trayvon Martin was self-defense.
Yeah, I mean, I personally talked.
This is a person who lives in the neighborhood who's actually willing to come out and have a conversation, and so for whatever that's worth, I feel he deserves at least a few points for coming out and having the conversation.
But basically, there's he had some, George Zimmerman had some suspicion that something was going on, right? Okay, he was concerned. He was concerned.
Let's finish.
You know, he was concerned about something, and so he called the police, and there was conversation, and some people did say that they said, just quit following him and whatnot. I don't know why they said that, and I don't know why he kept following the guy. I'm not sure.
The child.
Yeah, I think he was, you know, I don't know his age. Was he 17 or 18 or something?
No.
Or 16?
No.
I don't know. You know, so he kept following him. There was some sort of an altercation, and somehow George Zimmerman ended up on his back, I believe, and Trayvon was banging his head into the concrete, and he was fearing for his life.
Oh, sounds like a cop.
You know.
But Trayvon Martin got shot in the back, so that.
There was. I don't remember all the details, but that's not exactly how it happened.
So he self-defense.
You know?
He was using self-defense against the person that.
Yeah, I mean this
Wait,
is
hold
like.
on. I let you talk. Let me go. He was using self-defense against the child that he was following, a grown man following a child. Yeah, stalking, harassing a child. But he was self-defending him against the threat that he followed.
What threat
right?
did he really have? He had some skills in the goddamn Arizona.
I think it's a bad deal. Okay, I'm not for the situation. But I'm saying I wasn't there. I wasn't there for the
I don't know why
trial.
he followed him. I know why he followed him. Because he was black. Because it was racism. So you have that one case that is from a long time
Well, how do
ago.
we prove that?
What other cases that
But I'm saying I actually personally talked to the actual one of the
And I
actual
talked to his
lawyers.
personal mother.
I know was his mother there?
Was the lawyer there?
No, but I'm saying they take
the lawyers there?
all the
Well,
evidence.
no, was the lawyers there? Was the lawyers
What
there
evidence?
when
They
the
only
kid
can
was
get
dead?
evidence from
No,
the
bro.
man who murdered a kid. That's the only
I'm
evidence
saying though
they
that
have.
so you're saying that everything that all the evidence and all the eyewitnesses, all the phone calls, everything,
The eyewitnesses.
all that was fabricated. Yeah, there was people in the apartments that verified the stories, I believe.
No.
You believe that
Yeah.
means you don't know, so you can't say that.
So
Well,
you keep saying I believe that means you don't know.
So
This was a case that was national, and so everyone
literally
talked
means you
about
don't
this.
know if you keep saying
But
I
that was a
believe
minute
this,
ago,
I
so let's
believe that.
focus on at least
It
like
means
the
you
last
don't
past.
know. You have
Let's
no
focus
facts.
on the last
And you're
year.
right. I
Let's
don't
focus
really
on the
know.
last
I
4
don't
years.
know all the facts.
Who
I'm just
have
saying
you,
that
what cases have you looked
the
into?
closest bit of information that I have is that I personally
Okay, move
talked
on
to
from
an
Trayvon
attorney
Martin.
or heard from the
What
attorney,
cases?
right?
So that's one. That's
Yeah.
one. That was unjustified, but let's say it was justified.
Yeah.
What other cases are you looking at? Because you said most cops, so I want to know what other cases
What do
you
you-
know
what do you
about.
mean,
When
most
black people
cops?
are being killed by police. You said it's because they're protecting themselves. You named one case.
So
Name
we're
some more.
the
Well,
most.
the one where I don't remember all the names, but
That sounds like
the
a
bigger
Boston
guy,
episode, the one where they-
it was at like a convenience store, and there was a cop in the car, and he told him to do something. He didn't do it. He tried to grab the cop's gun. You know, I can't remember the guy's name. But
So the
anyways,
cop was able to keep his
but that
gun
was, and
get in possession to shoot
even
him.
African American people testified.
It's black.
Or black.
Yeah.
Either one.
It's not a bad
or,
word
or
to
do you
say
like
black.
Yeah,
black?
it's okay to
Do
say
you
black. It's not a
prefer-
crime.
Huh?
It's not a crime to say the word black.
Black or African
No,
American?
it's black.
Well, but, like,
you like
black.
black? Is that what
No,
you
It's
for
called black.
example,
prefer?
you don't know, like, if I was born in a country in Africa.
I just don't. I'm
or
trying
in
not to offend you.
Yeah,
That's all.
just say black. We said it's on their
Yeah,
shirt
if
right
you
now.
want to be called African American,
But
or,
you don't
or
know if
whatever you
my
prefer.
nationality is American, United States
Right,
citizen.
right.
You don't know that. So black.
Right,
would be
right. So
like-
black is more general, and you're least offensive.
No,
without
if you know the
knowing.
difference
Right.
between race, nationality, and ethnicity,
Right.
then you would know.
Like if you see there's a white
It
guy,
doesn't
you don't
even
know if
just-
I'm from
That's
Italy
your race.
or
See, I wouldn't call you a white American.
Right, so you're-
I just call you white.
right.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where I'm from.
Yeah,
Right?
nobody goes around saying white American.
Right.
That doesn't
So why
make
would
any
you call us
sense.
African
A
American?
person from Russia is still white, but
Yeah.
they're not white American.
So I
So I guess
You
I
should
guess
really do your your research. It doesn't sound like you do it often. It's kind of this conversation. It makes it so much more.
I don't really make a big issue of this.
It makes
There's
I think it's great. I think it's really.
These opinions, you should have stuff
I
to
don't
back
treat
it.
black people any different than
It
I
sounds
treat
like
white
When you're
people.
holding these
can't believe
opinions,
it.
you should have stuff
Right.
to back it.
Even if you don't think so, even though there is a racial bias, or you probably do, the person who's in your doorway, lady with a camera, and the guy who thinks he created Black Lives Matter,
Well,
like your people do.
He's got a
people
sense
do.
of humor.
Okay,
too.
but your people
Oh, that's
do.
humor to you.
So your
That's
people
that's
He's
humor.
just a
Hey,
funny
can
guy.
I ask you something? Wait. Can I ask you something?
Damn.
Why is him saying that Black Lives Matter funny though? Wait. Why is Black Lives Matter funny?
No, I'm saying from his perspective.
No,
I'm
that's
saying,
what he's saying. He said, I created Black Lives Matter. He said he's a funny guy.
Because
he's
he
making
had
jokes.
most of his friends are black,
That
and
doesn't
he
mean
took
shit.
care of them. Like
Listen,
he was friendly
listen,
to them. He's
that,
like, yeah,
that
Black
means
Lives Matter.
nothing, bro. That
know,
means
that's what
nothing,
he
bro.
was
Hey,
saying.
listen, bro.
I know.
That means nothing, bro.
What do you mean it means
He
nothing?
can have black friends. Is he black? No. I have to live this every single fucking day. This color does not change.
No,
It doesn't.
neither
So-
does this color.
Exactly, which means you have more privilege than I do.
Sucks.
Which means you have,
your
like, bro,
color.
what oppression do you really experience, bro?
You're never gonna win it.
War.
Wait,
You're
but
never
we're not
gonna
even
look at it
trying
as
to
like
have
a
a
war.
Not a
war.
war.
We're
White,
not-
I'm presuming.
We're
That's what
having
you
a
look like. You look white
conversation.
passing, so what are you?
No, I'm not.
Well, you look white passing.
White presenting.
Exactly. You're still white passing, which means you still benefit from this society that benefits white people. 'cause
Well,
you're
what if I
white
go over
passing.
what if I go to a country that's predominantly a black skinned country?
Black skin? There's no such. What the fuck is black skin? Just a predominantly black country. What the fuck is
Okay,
black
Sudan,
skin?
Sudan.
Just say
Any country
predominantly
You guys
black
are
country.
disturbing the peace of someone that
Fuck your peace.
Never gonna say because of me.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah,
Can I tell you something about you? Can I tell you something about
You gotta go to work.
Hold up, guys, hold up. Hold up.
Let
I've never
TK
been
talk.
over
What's
there,
up?
so.
Can I tell you something about disturbing the peace? Charlene Lyle was at home and killed by Seattle Police Department. Sean Fear was holding his 1-year-old daughter with his back turned toward the police and was shot and killed with holding his daughter.
And Charlene's
Shay
kids
Taylor-
watched her die.
Charlene is
all for it.
No, listen.
You don't understand.
Listen.
I
Can
understand
you hear
all
me
that.
out? Can you hear me out first?
No, you
Can you let me
don't
finish first?
Yes,
Please
I
stop.
do.
Can you please stop interrupting me?
I
Just-
know
just-
more than you think I do.
Oh my gosh. This is what's wrong with white passing people and
You
white
need to
people.
listen.
They always want to, they think they have the right to talk over people. You don't. Right now in this moment, you do not. I was talking first. Was I not? That's not even neither here nor
No,
there.
I was saying you
Either
were
way, you're
disturbing the
talking.
peace and you
Exactly, I'm
started
trying to explain to you
yelling at
why we're disturbing your peace.
Why?
Because black people are still being killed by the police, and you're
But
just sitting
I'm
here worried
not
about your
doing-
peace being
But
disturbed.
I'm not doing it.
But you're not doing shit to stop it either. But sitting here worried about your peace being disturbed.
Can you actually where I've come from?
But can you tell us what you're doing for Black lives that are being murdered? Like, can you actually tell us what you personally,
Seriously.
both of you guys, are doing for Black lives
Seriously.
in America? Like, you might support the cause.
Well, I'm involved in a group that dads
Same.
that tries to get both African American, black,
We have no idea.
black
no
and
idea
white
where I came from.
dads reunited with their fathers.
Oh, okay, but now
Marvin
the difference
Charles,
is
he's
that you
the,
live here now,
I know. So
and
you
I
guys are
still
down, you might
go
even
through
have
this
to
shit no
use
matter
the
where I
games, 'cause they
fucking
still get the
go.
last
So I
conference.
don't even care about that.
yeah. So I mean,
I don't
he's a
really
friend of
care
mine,
about it
personal
because
friend.
You,
I-
the fact that you said we're disturbing your peace, the fact that you
appreciate
have
what
peace
he's
right now,
doing.
I don't have peace because I cannot.
I recognize
For
Well,
national,
do something about. Don't be sorry.
for national audience, just so you know, it's up until 10 p.m. There is no disturbing. There's no disturbing of the peace. If there was, there's several police officers who left because there's nothing going on here that's actionable.
If the sky was fucking green,
So-
the sky is not green. I do not have
Share
peace.
with us where you
That's actually a good analogy, right? You're disturbing the peace. It's somebody could be playing loud music right now, and it may be annoying, but there would be nothing that anybody could do about it at the
I
moment.
have 3 kids on my own. I've been marching every day so that we can get to have these conversations with you. So I want to hear from you. I want to learn. Please tell us where you come from.
I'm not going to be fun to tell you like childhood.
But you
But you brought it up. I mean, look, I'm gonna like break the fourth frame here. You brought it
I'm
up.
an immigrant too. I'm also an immigrant. So please, I come from Mexico. Tell me where you come from.
Can I also say that
So
we all, everybody has a place where they come from. Everybody has their backstory. But that shouldn't matter when you're saying we're disturbing peace and saying and you acknowledge that these individuals out here, these black individuals, do not have peace to go back to. How, as human beings who have said that you care,
Like
that
you
you
want to
have
film the
care,
black and white
have
shoe
care,
there?
and empathy.
Oh, I was like, what are they doing?
When you know and acknowledge that people, and not just people, black people, when you're saying communities, I wouldn't go into your communities and disturb peace and then saying they don't have peace, and saying and recognizing that. How can you as a human being be okay with people, black people, not having peace? So great, I'm happy to hear that because I'm personally not okay with that
I'm
either.
so fierce. Do not touch me. Do not touch. Don't touch me.
But if you're not okay with that, then how are you doing something about it?
She was not willing to have a conversation.
Hey, don't.
Oh yeah, stay on the
Stay on the side, but also
make sure you stay. But
You can't be doing that.
This individual is putting cameras and a face without a mask into everybody's face and putting people in danger, and it's just been asked that they put on a mask and please stop getting into people's face and putting cameras. That's what's been asked. And there's been no interaction.
Hold on.
No, it's not the police. It's not the police call. I know what phone number she just called. I saw the number.
Either way.
Well, you can't be blocking somebody from walking on a public street.
Oh no, that's not what we were.
Put on some different shoes.
Yeah, if they're touching the ground, because you're going like
Your
this,
toes
then
are
those-
touching the
I'm
ground.
just saying that it doesn't.
Man, that don't mean shit, bro.
Did we do a visual?
Let's go do it.
I know, that's actually just what I was wondering.
The vigil's ready.
It's actually just what I was wondering, and I think that is the right answer at this point.
When what makes you comfortable is more important than literal life and death and basic human rights.
Man, y'all fucking suck. Y'all some big ass motherfucking bitches. You know shit.
Let's get out of this.
Alright, we just wait for black time.
Things I got that I borrowed.
All right, so I have a pole cam in a way that I can't see what you see, so I'm hoping I have this all in frame for you.
Mr. Satterberg, look at it.
Does anybody not remember it? Does anybody not remember?
Actually, this is what I'm gonna do.
The question I asked?
I don't remember it.
What do you think as a
Give me a
King
second
County
here.
prosecutor or any prosecutor at all, what do you think that person's role should be, especially when it comes to the BIPOC community? And I can go first. First of all, I don't think that person should be white, because that person is going to come into cases where people aren't white and they have that bias. They also can't assess correctly. This is my opinion. They can't correctly assess
Bear with me
if
here,
someone was being
malcontents.
racist towards this group, because they're white. And white people think everything's not racist, when it is. So for me, first of all, it needs to be a person of color, or a black person, or an indigenous person that can correctly do this job. I also think that it should, these cases when it comes to BIPOC
I'm working
people, they
on
need
it.
to be looked at closer than when it's non-black people, or indigenous, or people of color. That's my opinion on that. My stance. You want to go next?
I mean, pretty much all of that, and then on top of that, I think most importantly, there should be somebody else before them that determines whether that happens or not. Besides these asshole cops, they don't do shit. I mean, like somebody that's independently somebody else that determines what happens to these BIPOC youth. Because obviously white people do not need to be making those decisions, because we clearly see what happens. Lock them up and send them up the road and destroy their lives, and now they're just fucked for the rest of their life because they live in a society that doesn't offer any type of rehabilitation or any type of opportunities once they've already been in that carceral system. So there has to be some type of intervention before it even gets to that point where they can go up that road. Because Because I believe with proper structure and a little bit of guidance, there's a way you can redirect people. There's a way to redirect without trying to send them up the road trying to redirect them. There's a way to redirect in a way that's productive to them. Especially these BIPOC youth, because that's, and these BIPOCs period. It's just, you have to meet them on their level sometimes. But if you think, oh, well, the bar's way up here, and all you gotta do is reach up there and just try your hardest and you get there, it's different. It's not the same. So you have to have somebody that can meet them where they're at and divert them from that, get to these guys like this guy. That's my opinion.
I just, I'm thinking a lot because, I mean, I don't really believe in any part of this current system at all. And, you know, to get to a prosecutor, like, it's police and, like, all that shit, and I don't believe in that at all. The other side to that is, like, well, and what do you believe in? I don't know, like, what do you believe in? What is the answer? And I'm learning that. I don't know yet. But that's just, like, one of those people thoughts I'm going to take it. I just, you know, thinking about BIPOC who are accused of crimes. I mean, we need to assess the whole thing and understand why they're committing these crimes, right? And are they really crimes? You know? Oftentimes we talk about, like, small things. Like, I know kids who've been locked up for, like, stealing something small or whatever, and then their life is ruined. Like, gone. They'll never see the light of day because they're just locked up in his box and abused inside that box. And, I mean, why do you think that kid allegedly took that small thing? Because they were in need. Why was that kid in need? Because we live in fucking white-ass America, founded on bloodshed, disgusting spirits, evil. That's why. Because the system ain't for us, never has been. That's why fuck this system entirely. This is why we must build something new. And I don't know what that new thing looks like, I just know this ain't it.
Can't get no worse.
Who's next? I'll point y'all out. I think these are important conversations to have.
River, you want to go? Verbatim. Come on, verbatim.
No, I got nothing to say.
Yeah, you do. Come on.
Just happy tonight to be out here. And I definitely agree with everything you just said. The system definitely needs to be rebuilt. We definitely need to be put in the hands of BIPOC persons to make decisions for all lives. And this is definitely beautiful that all y'all came out, you know. It's serious. This is what's gonna make changes if we all just keep doing this every day. Stay consistent.
I'll say something. So we've talked about how a white person can never understand what we're going through right now, and that's true. A white person can never see it the same way we do, or feel it the same way we do when we experience racism. A white person will quite literally never understand. Even if you're disabled, even if you're queer, even if you're trans, literally you will never understand. You might get a little taste of it, but never at the same level as black folks. And so if we can agree on that, why are we allowing white people to make decisions for America, which is supposed to be a mixing pot? Why are white people in power? Like, I'm not saying there shouldn't be white people, because don't get me wrong, we have an amazing logistics team for EDM, and it's diverse, and there are white people. But it's not as these white people make the decisions, but they help. And it should be like that with whatever system we have after this, because white people can never see life through the same eyes as black, indigenous, or people of color. And they can't. Therefore, they cannot make decisions for them. No, I'm done.
I'm from the South Mexico, Acapulco, and the last 3 years I've given myself permission to watch like really awful videos about people getting tortured. When I first started getting informed about how many people had died as a result of the war, the drug war in Mexico. 2 million people, I believe, that might be a low number in the last 10 years. That's a lot more people than all the wars combined, and that's just south of the border. That's where I'm from. I come from, like I was an immigrant. I was an undocumented immigrant for 15 years. And so when I see this movement, I'm here because I was just like, I was here, and all the time I felt awful that a lot of people that I even know, like I disconnected myself from my life because it was hard to see. I had to stop it. So many people died. So many people, and that's from all the guns that come from the United States. And so, and I learned about it. I can see the people out here. Kind of left me hopeless, you know, but anyway, I've seen a lot of good things lately.
Some speakers are talking softly. There's nothing I can do about it.
Redirect back to your original question just a little bit.
1 second.
Yeah. I think that the person in this position should be someone who is BIPOC. But I think at least until we've abolished the system, there should be somebody who's been through the carceral system and come back out. And I've thought about this for a sum total of maybe 5 minutes, so this is not a thought out, this is food for thought, this is not a full-blown opinion. But I think at the bare minimum, having somebody who understands what kind of trauma that does to a person and holds the gravity of it, rather than just seeing it as a way to disappear people. I think that's a responsibility this person should have, because that is literally the job. You should understand that you are effectively dooming actual human beings with actual human lives, not just, oh, this person is not a person, they're a problem, and I can just get rid of this problem and go home at the end of the day and never think about it again. I think that's fucked up.
Speaking from that standpoint, it's totally fucked up, right? It's a totally fucked up system.
I think prosecutors shouldn't see themselves as being like on the same team as police officers. They should be serving the community, and a prosecutor should never be able to accept in a defense plea where an officer is saying that they are scared of an unarmed black person and allow them to get away with making that argument in a court of law.
So we did an analysis, our group, based on the records out of King County Prosecutor Criminal Office. Only 4% of cases that they brought to charges went to trial. 4% got their constitutional right to a trial. And of those, only 75% were trial by jury. The other 25, so 1% of all cases were a trial, but by a judge with no jury. 79% of cases are plea deals. And what they do in the court system is, we'll give you this, and maybe you get some house arrest or whatever, but if you don't, then we're gonna nail your ass to the wall. And then your public defender will say, well, you're just better off taking this. And that is how Dan Satterberg and his ilk then, when it comes up to re-election time, go, see, I'm tough on crime. 79% of the cases that came across my desk ended in guilty convictions. And the whole system is broken, because the reality is, if all of those cases went to trial by jury, by their constitutional right, the court system would collapse, because we've made everything in this country illegal, and we do it to keep the BIPOC and the poor populations down.
It's not justice, that's a threat.
And it's so crazy you say that, because a lot of times what they do too is they give you these deals that are way less than what you were looking at. And then it's like, but you know you ain't did nothing wrong, but it's like you have this fear in the back of your head, like, bro,
Exactly.
I know I didn't do shit wrong, but bro, I'm scared, because if I do this and they figure it out like this, bro, I'm fucked. I've been in that situation, bro. I've literally been there. Literally been there. And that shit's crazy, because you're thinking like, damn, bro, I know I'm going somewhere, but it's just like, how long do I really want to be gone? How much do I really want to miss? How much of time with my family do I want to miss? What's going to happen when I'm gone? Like, that shit's really real, bro. And that's how they get 79% of plea deals and all this time out of people. Because it's that fear that's instilled in the back of our heads, like, bro, I either got to do this or this. And it's that taking the lesser of two evils. Shit. Bro, that's why it's important to know your rights, because if you know what you're doing and you know what they can and can't do to you, then that's more of a chance of you have not being in that predicament. Because that shit's real. That shit is hella real. That fear of being gone for 10 plus years when you know you didn't do shit wrong, but because of how the system works, it's a real possibility that that's what's gonna happen. It cripples you to taking the lesser of the two evils. And they're happy because they got something. They got to win. They got what they wanted out of the deal. Their conviction rate goes up for that.
Exactly.
They get what they want. Why do you think the Feds got a 98% conviction rate? Because they do it in such a way, it makes people think like, damn, I'm really got, like, I ain't got shit else to play on this. So you take whatever deal they give you. That shit's real. That fear is really real.
This kind of goes a different direction, but I think even when it comes to prosecuting people for the crimes that they commit, I think it also takes a heart to look at these cases. Like Elisha said, are these really crimes and why were they doing it? I think that's something that should be considered. From personal experiences, I think we were 12, my brother was 13, and my brother allegedly broke into a store. But we were homeless, we would sleep at bus stops, and so he's breaking to the store, and while he's in the store, I remember getting a call from him, and he's like telling me like, what clothes do you need? Also their cash register, I can't get it open, allegedly, and telling me all these things, but this is because we didn't have anything. And the reason he was doing this was to provide for the two of us. I have way more siblings, but at the time, my siblings would split off to their friends' house, and some of us wouldn't have friends' houses to go to. And he ended up running from it. He never went to court, and then when he got adopted, that came up, because obviously we're in court again, so that we can get adopted, and that stuff came up. So he started going to court, trying to get that expunged from his record, even had like our family attorney come in and explain the circumstances, like, this is the case, like, they were homeless, they were being abused and neglected, so that's why this child did this. It should be expunged from her record, because they were just trying to survive. And they didn't expunge it. It's still on his record to this day. And so every time this is the only example I can think of. I don't agree with the military, but when he was 18, we know how that whole system works when they try to get Black and BIPOC kids to join. And he tried to join it, but he couldn't because that was on his record. And still, when he tries to go do other things, that's going to be there. Like simple jobs with cash registers. It's harder because you have this on your record. But you can't sit there and tell the person that's trying to hire you, like, hey, I was homeless at this time. I was like 13 years old and I was poor. Like, are you not considering those things with these kids? You're fucking up their lives because they're poor or because they're BIPOC. And it's fucked up.
It's illegal to do that shit in this country. It's illegal to be a BIPOC poor kid in this country. It literally is. Assholes like him show it every single day why it's illegal. But instead of understanding, you criminalize this shit. Instead of trying to actually do some good in these kids' lives and help them and maybe divert them back a different way and giving them the resources that they need in order not to go that way or whatever the case may be, you criminalize them and you criminalize their behaviors and you send them up the road and hopefully they'll learn from it, but they don't learn. Because at the end of the day, when they come back, if they still don't have those same, if they're still in the same circumstances they were in before they went, the same thing is going to keep happening.
Yep.
The same exact thing is going to keep happening because you're not rehabilitating, you're taking them out of that situation for a little bit of time, and then you're putting them right back there. It's called institutionalization. That's how they institutionalize people. That's how they keep them going back to those institutions because at least there, they have a set schedule, they get fed, they have a bed, they're good, they don't have to worry about shit. Imagine if you gave them those same resources on the streets, who knows what they'll do with them. But I have a good hunch that it'd be a lot better than what they're making it seem. I'm just saying, like, you can't...
You gotta re-traumatize in these institutions. You gotta get the basic... Well, not even all of them. I mean,
Right.
we were kids,
Not even
you know,
all
they
of them
weren't
get
even
that.
fed, and like, I mean, it's disgusting. Like, it is disgusting. Like, if you want to see, you can go on Reddit and like look at like CO confessions and shit like that. Like, it's real, and it's disgusting, and it's like, you know, just as you were saying, like taking them out of their already shitty situation and then putting them into another shitty situation because they were trying to get out of that one. Like, it's just a whole cycle of like, it's a trap. It's like, it's a trap. It's some kind of, it's like a fucking cult or something. Because
definitely a cult.
if you know, we look at some things like, oh shit, that's taboo, that shouldn't be happening. Like, oh, trafficking underground, that's bad. That's what this is, in broad daylight. And no one, not us, but like, not enough people care about it.
The majority.
Yeah.
That 1%.
Yeah.
Don't give a fuck.
Well, look,
This is happening. They are the criminals. The fucking system. They are the criminals.
Well, look at California with the wildfire firefighters. So California, if you're in the prison system, they're like, hey, you can go fight the forest fires, and we're going to pay you slave laborers to do it. We're going to train you everything to be a firefighter. And then when they get out, up until a couple of months ago, sorry, you got a criminal record, you can't be a firefighter. And the only reason they made the change is because COVID had wiped out the number of possible firefighters to deal with the fires in California that were historic this year. And because the numbers were so depleted and they had the need, the forcing function, and that was the only reason they made the change. Why would you make them jump through all that hoops, dangle that carrot, and then say, fuck you, you can't be a firefighter. But thank you for serving and protecting property while risking your life.
So that's what they do. It's the same thing. They'll let you give them your money to go to school to be something in their system, but the second you try to be something in their system, oh, nope. It's always like that. To be real with you, only place you can really be a felon and actually make a good enough ways to do something is construction. Literally.
Only a felon on record.
Literally. Like, I'm in the laborers union. The laborers union is made up of 80% minority and people with backgrounds. Literally. Because we can go break our backs for this system to get paid that money, but we just can't advance to it. We can't get to a place where we can own something in there. We can break our backs for it though. And that's bullshit. And 9 times out of 10, those opportunities don't even arise. Construction opportunities and opportunities like that don't even arise unless you come out that system. Unless you go through the carceral system and come out. Literally. Because that's the only way I found out. Literally, that I could even possibly go that route. So I went through that system and came out. But again, it just shows you that they'd rather destroy your life and watch you come out and struggle to pick the pieces up versus giving you a foundation to possibly build on top of. The system doesn't believe in us. It never has. It never has believed in BIPOC people. It never has. And I think it's about high time that this shit starts believing in us. We make it believe in us. Because goddamn it, ain't none of us gonna get nowhere until all of us get somewhere. And can't none of us do this without the other. It's like somebody over here always says, I'm not gonna put them on the spot, but Pike Place Market wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our immigrant brothers and sisters, or siblings in general. There's a lot of things in this world that wouldn't be here if it wasn't for people who are not white, black and BIPOC people. There's a lot of shit that wouldn't be here if it wasn't for us. So I think it's about high time that we all change that shit and change the way this shit works. That shit's bullshit. Because can't none of us coexist here without the other. Literally. If you ask me.
The conversation is redirected, but you can also speak on this. But I would like, we would all like many voices. Again, these conversations are really important to have. If we're painting a better future, we have to do it together. That's why we're here, right? Unified. Conversation matters. Chanting isn't getting anywhere.
You can always write something down and ask a friend to say it for you. If you're nervous.
Right.
But also it's okay to just, fuck up your words as much as you want to here.
I'm a prime example. I'll be fucking up my words all the time. I'm not gonna make it easy.
I'd like to ask if any white people here want to share their experience and difficulty with their family members, close friends that you might not talked to and have not considered talking to because you know that relationship might turn out to be challenging. Does anybody want to share about that, or like you feel nervous about talking to your family? Are there ways in which you can be helped? Encouraged. This kind of thing. White person going through those things.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to my parents today. I mean, it's hard to call it progress. I don't know. I mean, I think I shared a lot with them about last night. I talked about mental illness and struggles with my own and with the institutions involved, and they just, I mean, there's no imagination that they could even be racist. I mean, just saying it is so, even like, I've been talking to them for like a year about this stuff, and I mean, even now, it's like, I feel like they're actually even starting to listen, or like that they're on their heels in even the tiniest way. But I mean, I've committed to keeping on talking to them, and that's good. They're agreeing to, but yeah, I mean, they're in their 60s, and that's a lot of unlearning. I don't know.
It takes time in conversation sometimes. That's something I have to work on too, is like immediately after saying it, like they're not going to get it, especially after thinking in a certain way for a long time. It takes a little bit. Sometimes it takes other people longer. It takes a minute. And I've said this before, but every white person standing here is racist. Like, regardless if you want to admit it or not, you guys uphold the racist system, regardless if you want to admit it or not. And it takes a long time to unlearn it. It takes a lifetime to unlearn that privilege and habits that you have. It's not easy. It's not easy having conversations, is what I'm saying. It should be easy to unlearn racism, but it's not easy having conversations kind of.
I've been having some really difficult conversations.
Spam those hearts for your moderators. They're working really hard tonight. Let them know you appreciate it by spamming those hearts.
And I think
these issues that, you know, will cause a further divide. I think especially, I think I'm privileged enough to have parents who typically we get along really well, and they're really compassionate. So it can be really easy to just kind of fall back into these, you know, we're only going to talk about things that we agree on, or we're only going to, just like stay in harmony. But I think that's kind of just, that's exactly what, I think when, like, kind of using that privilege, you know, if you have this access to these people who are sitting there and listening to you and willing to have these conversations, you know, there can be like this kind of cognitive dissonance, I think, too, about how they have thought their whole lives, but they have someone sitting in front of them that they trust saying something different, and like Kathy was saying, like, that's just such a long, difficult conversation to have, and it takes a really long time for them to start seeing things differently, but obviously it's really important.
I think that the price on colonization is really high. It took such a long time for these systems to get folks where we are today. It's going to take possibly just as long to be having the conversations to reverse that, and just as important as it is for BIPOC people to be decolonizing, it's important for settlers to be resettling and breaking down those viewpoints of the systems that were created at the root foundation of our country. I think that it's not going to happen in a week because colonization didn't happen in a week, you know. It's these systems, you have to put in the energy and put in the effort and be willing to take time and know that if it's going to be a 5-year, 4-year, like 3-year conversation, then it's going to be that in order to get to a certain point.
I'd just like to add to that, I know that a lot of us who are white are having maybe some uncomfortable conversations right now. I remember in 2014, I'm Drea, by the way, I'm from Flint.
Michigan?
Flint, Michigan, yeah. I lived there during the water crisis. I moved here like 4 years ago. I lived with my family, and in 2014, Ferguson was going on, and my dad was definitely a Republican, a major conservative. I got in so many fights with him about everything that was going on, and it was exhausting, even though he was seeing all of this really, you know, racism happening around him with the Flint water crisis. Like, it took a long time, but my dad, I mean, it's the bare minimum, but he says ACAB now, like, it took a long time, but, you know, and like, he talks about it all the time, like, he thinks things that are racist, and then he stops himself right in that moment, and he's like, this is racist. So, you know, it's hard, and sometimes, like, I went through times of not talking to him, and sometimes that's what it takes, is, you know, like, sacrifice.
I remember I used to sit in the back of my car around people with the way my family decided to talk about people, and it was just so nasty and disgusting for me. Like, yeah, I put up with that too because, I don't know, just saw things differently. I know nobody can see how I see it. I can't see how anybody else can see it from the perspective. And that's a beautiful thing, and that's to be able to come together with all those different perspectives. But like, yeah, now I have a 6-year-old sister, and just the age gap and seeing how she's being raised, and what she sees is like, she's just so open, and she's so loving, just like, you know, how everybody like can do, like, look at people and just say with an open heart and an open mind, and to want to understand, and not like always be able to understand, but to just put yourself forth and like open yourself to experience everybody's experience. Yeah, it's I don't know, good, like, you know, like seeing that in the new generations, and I hope it keeps happening, because if it doesn't, then we're fucked. But like, just keep pushing for it to happen.
No, it's
you know, a lot of times what goes through my head is blood is thicker than water, but so is mud. And I hate to even have to think about that. But for me, I have a couple of relatives, Roman relatives, his family's everywhere right now when it comes to them. And they are pro-police, fucking like American flag dress wearing type, like bullshit. And it breaks my heart, you know, that, I don't know, like, relatives close in the line to me. I'm not gonna say where in the line, but like close in the line, like this, are against everything that we are doing out here. And I don't know, I'm sharing this because lately I'm just sharing a lot of like just my heart. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate y'all. And, you know, in the beginning of this uprising, I wanted to just kind of, you know, I wanted to explain that this is what, blah, blah, blah. But then I realized with some people, and this kind of goes against what I'm even preaching, right? Because we should be having conversations. But I realized for myself at this moment, I cannot with some people. You know, like people who were like, who I can say my angels right next to me, like people who I looked up to in my bloodline. I can't, you know, because I can't look them in the face, knowing that, you know, we're the same. And it's like, to be honest, it's like, I'm gonna be fighting for your black ass, and you're gonna like go ahead and wave your fucking American flag, talking about like, you know, the police. Like, come on now. Come on now, you know what I'm saying? So I love them from afar. I have love for them. I have no hatred in my heart. But I just realized that I will not. I refuse to use my energy and turn that into something negative and let them make me become upset when I could take that very same energy and put it toward the greater good.
That's really on the wire, and this performance is really on the wire between your obligation to progress into this movement and your obligation towards taking care of yourself. And this is super different between white and black people, because you know, if I'm having a rough day and I'm already gone, I maybe don't have room for that conversation, but I am obligated to never entirely stop having that conversation with my friends and family. But you guys shouldn't be forced to educate anybody who doesn't want to listen. And that's nuanced and convoluted, and it's going to be different for every single person depending on their identity and the people around them and who they're talking to and what you're doing. But it is complicated and nuanced, and you have to think about that, and you have to say, where does my responsibility like sit between to yourself and to other people? That's something I've been thinking about for really this whole movement, is when can I step back and when am I obligated to push myself, and is this pushing a growth pushing, or is this a damage pushing? And I think that's my favorite perspective on this conversation. I think it's really interesting.
Just kind of piggybacking off of Elijah, it's also like what you said. Also, like black people, BIPOC people are having to have these hard conversations too. Like an example is yesterday that man that tried to run through the crowd, that was a black man. The I-5, that was a black man.
Yeah.
Some of the incidents in CHOP, those were black people. And at the beginning, when day one when it all started happening, all of my family was talking about it. And some of them even went for the first couple of days because they've seen that it was happening. And then finally I got to go to a Sunday dinner because I kept going out to marches, and my family I would consider them really close and to be really blessed to have such a big family that all stays connected. And so every Sunday there's dinners, Saturdays there's parties. My family's really close. And so I finally got the chance to come to another Sunday dinner. And my family was just talking about it and like really happy, and they had been seeing it on the news all over their TL, and they were really happy about it, but they weren't really having like conversations with me about exactly what this movement meant. They just were seeing it as people are going out there because of George Floyd, as they should. And then it starts to go on, and then my family starts to get pissed at me about me not being around as much, or about me being out late, or even mad at me about me almost getting killed multiple times. Like seriously upset and like yelling things like, "Who do you think you are, Dr. Martin Luther King? Like, you need to stop going out in the streets." And those are hard conversations that I have to have too. The last time I was at a family gathering and I was only there for like an hour, I was on the balcony with my uncle and he was talking to me, and I started crying and telling him that it's not right that you guys don't talk to me, that you guys don't check on me. Every time I have a conversation with y'all about what's going on, y'all don't listen. And those are hard conversations that are happening in Black households as well. Because just because you're Black doesn't mean you care about this. Like, there are a lot of Black people with colonized minds. A lot of BIPOC people. Like, it's really hard to have these conversations. It's especially hard to have this conversation with my white birth mom, who thinks that she's Black because she's like 0.0 Black. And so these conversations are also happening in Black households. You're not alone. At least 2 more people, please, that haven't spoken, add to this conversation.
Figure out my place in this, so I really appreciate other people that have shared like what they've done with their families and their dads specifically, being like, sometimes maybe you literally need to push that and cut them off for a little bit. Like, I'm really scared to do that because I'm really close to my family, but I am still having the conversation. And if you have a shitty family, you're not alone. My parents are really good people and they're not racist, but I don't think they're being conversations that will happen. Thank you for sharing your story.
Just one more, please.
I'll say this one little thing. So, I think one of the things that has been most powerful for me as part of this movement is hearing people of color talk about their stories, and particularly talking about their stories with the prison system, because I've never been there. I could have been there, but a lot of lucky things happened in my life. First off, being my skin color. Second off, being my economic background, the way I can speak and pull myself out of a situation that other people would get stuck for. And I hear a lot of people of color talking about their frustration with what it feels like and the reality of the prison system, and it's valid. But I feel like it can be missing a component when there's not like that personal level of connection with what their story actually is like. It's really, really powerful for me when I hear someone talk about what they saw and what they heard, maybe even in excruciating detail. I think that that's something that I don't think anybody has an obligation to talk about that, but when I hear that, it's something I want to hear more of. It's powerful, and it's meaningful, and it's valuable. That's all I gotta say.
It's crazy.
Just thinking about you, Chike, I want to hear more about your story, as much as you want to share.
It's just, I don't really know how to explain it without, saying stuff like educating people. But like, it's just not a mindset you really want to be in, that mindset of being locked up is, it's not really a good place to have your brain switch to. Like out here, my brain switches to the same time. Because the situation that is like you always gotta be looking around, you always gotta make sure you're good. So it's like being out here, my brain switches to that mode sometimes, being locked up. Because it's the same scenario, just more wide open out here. So sometimes you'll catch me like looking down all the time, just like making sure like I know what's around me, because it's that institutionalized mentality, it's that mentality of not knowing if somebody's gonna take a swing at you or what's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's just one of those things you always have to, well, me personally, I always think about in the back of my mind. Like, even now I know I don't have nothing going on, I ain't doing nothing wrong, but it's always the thought of like, damn, when these motherfuckers come around, it's just like, have I done anything that might send my ass back to prison lately? Like, it's that constant thought's always running through my head. But I mean, it's just what's gonna happen, you know. Once you go through that, it's just kind of one of those things that always
Trauma
happens to
brain.
you. Yeah, it's one of those things that always happen to you. So it's just like, but at the end of the day, I mean, you might be a little scared about it, but you know, at the end of the day, just like all of us come out here risking our lives, you know.
Yeah.
It's one thing. We all might be scared. It's one thing to be scared, but it's another thing to be brave. It's a totally other thing to be brave, because we might all come out here scared as fuck every single day, but we're brave enough to come out here and do it. Because at the end of the day, we know this is what has to be done. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I go in those modes, I'm a little scared because I tend to panic a little bit in those modes, because it's that fight or flight response thing. But at the end of the day, I think coming out here and being brave is more important than being scared of being locked back up in a box. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, if you're scared of being locked in a box, I mean, they're winning either way because they beat you mentally. Mentally, they broke you down to being scared of being put in a box. So they're winning. They already won because they beat you mentally.
You know what that makes me think of? It's learned helplessness. Like, this is some really, like, fucked up stuff people are doing to animals, but, like, if you put a bunch of rats together in a cage, and you put treats in a certain spot, and they learn that the treats are there, and then you start shocking rats when they go over there.
I'm gonna keep going because they know it's where they're supposed to go for their treats. Yeah.
Once, there's an experiment where they were doing this, and they started shocking the other rats. Like, a rat would go and they'd get the treat, and then it'd shock all the other rats, and the other rats would attack it. And once they took the shocks away, all these rats still did the same thing when a rat came over and got that treat. Like, it just, like, this cycle of trauma just kept on continuing over and over again, even after that was removed. It's just a mind control that seeps in long after that punishment is removed.
I have a question. I have a question. Why is it, and I'm assuming this may be some other people's opinions because I heard somebody say it's fuel to the fire. I feel as though it's weird to be fixated on people of color, is the word that you said, of their traumas inside of jails or what they went through, because that's a culture chamber. And just wanting to hear about that, like, I'm really curious, because, like, for me, that's not something I wanted to share. Like, I thought TK was going to go into detail, and that scared me. Like, no, like, don't, I whispered to her not to share that stuff. And it kind of worries me, and then also, like, worries me a little bit in comparison to people in jail and having this full force training that you talk about, and it was done on rats. Yeah, and, yeah.
Well, what I said was we aren't rats, so like that comparison, I hear why you said it, but it's also like white people have been comparing us to animals since the beginning of time. I don't like that.
Honestly, that makes me think of Frederick Douglass and how people didn't believe him, and when he was going around speaking in northern states, white people wanted to hear about his trauma. They wanted to, because they didn't believe him, and so they wanted to hear the gruesome details. But, like, I mean, take the man on his word. They're just like, I don't know. I mean,
that's a trend in this.
Like, you see someone's eyes and you can tell that they've been through something, and all you got to do is just be there for that person. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's really valid. May I come back a little, because you're holding me to account in a good way. I feel like understood and appreciated in like a genuine way, because you're holding me to account here. I guess, okay, there's a few things that I'm thinking about in response to that. First off, when I'm telling other people who aren't on board with this, having something like meaningful that can touch them on a deep level holds a lot of weight. If you can get somebody to empathize with that, then you can change their minds. When people are stubborn, hearing a story is something that can really touch them. Secondly, when I was a teenager, I took a variety of ADHD drugs that permanently altered my brain chemistry, and I stopped having any sort of emotional, empathic connection with anybody. And I spent most of my teenage years as a very sociopathic person. I had difficulty. When I would see people in pain, I'd see people hurt, like I recognized, like, oh, I don't think that should be good, but I didn't have any visceral response to any of these things. And that is the way I felt through most of this movement too. Like, there's a missing piece for me because I have difficulty connecting with other people on an empathic level, and it's changed a lot, and it feels like it's getting better, but why I'm driven to do that is because I want to get to a point where I can actually like feel a connection and understand it, because that gives me more motivation, and it means that I feel like I can project an energy that's more helpful in the ways that I can. And I guess also I recognize that a lot of people maybe haven't had exactly that experience that I talked about, but I think a lot of people have had their heartstrings cut in one way or another. They've become cold and unfeeling. And I think that the most powerful tool people have in their arsenal is that story. And I understand what you mean, that when you've gone through trauma, you might not want to hear about it. You might not want to hear it shared. That makes sense to me, and I respect that. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say.
Oh, I think that Black, Brown, and Indigenous narratives are important. I think
the point is that, you know, our trauma is not for white consumption, period. Point blank.
Poverty porn.
Yeah, there's a lot of trauma porn all over Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of that, and it's not anything that white folks will ever understand on that deeper level. So, I don't know, I just wanted to put that out there, and I think that's kind of the direction we're kind of going with that.
I have a response to this, although if the person of color has something more to say, please cut me off. So I talk a lot and I know that. I want to pass the mic to Billy.
Little Pisces
What you're talking about of not being able to empathize very well is almost a smaller scale of why this happens on a larger scale. Is we're taught from birth to not see people of color as people and taught not to empathize with them. And it's easier to empathize with you guys when you get to hear about your traumas. And by the way, TK, thank you for showing up. I'm really honored that I got to do it. It's that's you guys doing the work for us, is what it is. Is like, I shouldn't have to know your story to care, or I shouldn't have to experience empathy in order to be doing the work. And it's also my job to take apart all of the reasons that I don't have that sympathy, and to work on that myself without having to hear all of the details of their stories. Even from minimal details, or even from you guys saying, you know, I'm from a group that's been through a lot of things, I should be taking that as enough to empathize with. I don't need to you shouldn't be trying to stimulate my empathy to pull me in, to motivate me. I should be motivating myself, and I should be unpacking that, and I should be doing the work.
We're also here to like stand against police brutality, and so I don't know why you would have to see that in order to feel something, in order to feel like this suddenly makes sense of why you're here. You shouldn't have to hear the details of the trauma in order to realize that this wouldn't be organized at the beginning of the night before any conversation even happened if there wasn't trauma as a precursor to this event, you know, or any of the events that have happened for the last 154 days, you know.
This almost goes into the ableism that exists in our society against people who struggle with automatic empathy, and people who have sociopathy. What's the
sociopathic tendencies?
The actual not oppositional defiance, antisocial personality disorders. Is what I was looking for. Is you don't need to feel empathy in order to have sympathy and have compassion. You don't need to be able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes in an automatic way in order to care about them.
Yeah.
And in order to try and help them on a personal level and on a systemic level.
I think something that white people need to understand, and it's something I'm just starting to understand, is you can have shared experiences in protest. You can be pepper sprayed and tear gassed and rubber bulleted and run for your life and thrown on the ground and batons. But, you know, I'll speak from my own personal life. I get to go back to my town that is 99% white. It's 99% white because it was founded on racist roots of white-only neighborhoods. And no one's going to look at me cross-eyed when I go into the grocery store. No one's going to pull their purse closer because of that. A person of color can't change, if you say you're Asian, their physical appearance. They may have, they may have Asian features, but they may be very light skinned. A black person doesn't go home and peel their skin off. We will never understand, no matter how it's explained to us, no matter how much we will never fully understand their experiences. So all we can try to do is empathize and work to change the system so that the system is equal, truly equal for everybody. Because right now we live in a system that is just apartheid, has a nice shiny veneer on it. It has some chrome and some flashy lights, but that's what we live in.
I'm gonna be real. I don't even like talking about this shit. I really don't. Because, I mean, it might seem like it, but I really don't. Because, why? Why would I want to? It's not like it was just this good thing and one thing. Like, sometimes we have to also think about, like, well, we white people have to think about, like, yeah, maybe that person doesn't want to talk about that. Maybe that was just the worst thing. Like, you know,
Yeah.
before we start being so interested in it. Because not everybody wants to talk about it. Not everybody wants to even hear about it. I damn sure don't even really like talking about it. It's just, it gets asked so many goddamn times, it's just like, whatever. But like, that shit is not like something we should all like, you guys as white people should be fucking so interested in it. Because it's been happening. It's not like it just started. It didn't start with me. It didn't start with anybody sitting here. It's been happening. It didn't just all of a sudden pop up in 2020. That shit didn't start here. Because truth be told, there's people that worse have happened to than me. Or anybody sitting here. Actually, somebody sitting here actually went through worse than I did. To be real. And being completely honest. The shit didn't just start this fucking year though. It's been fucking happening for centuries. It's been happening. It didn't just start now. It didn't just start 5 years ago. It didn't start 2 years ago. It's been happening. So they still have this, for white people, to still have this infatuation with it, like it just started. It's crazy because it hasn't. It didn't just start here. It might have just been brought to your attention, but I encourage us all to go back into the history books. Not the ones that they taught in school either. Go back into the history books that you don't know about. Go back into the history that they didn't teach you.
People's history of the United States.
Start there. That's a great place to start if you ask me. Howard's Inn is a great place to start if you ask me. But go back and look at that shit. And maybe you guys as white people will not be so infatuated with knowing so much about it or wanting to hear about it because it's not something that should be really talked about. Because let's be real, as you're saying, what's understood shouldn't have to be explained. And if we all understood that and why those things are happening, I don't think we would really much want to hear it explained too much, if you ask me. Because I understand it, so I really could care less about hearing it explained to me. I've lived it. Like I said, there's somebody sitting amongst us right now that went through worse than what I did. So.
And honestly, I hear so much that we're here to protest against police brutality, but y'all, it's so much more than this. This country was not only built on stolen land, but by stolen people. Y'all get that? Like, literally the founding of this nation wasn't its actual founding. Like at all. This isn't just a police thing. It never has, it never will be. TK was just talking about education. Our education system is so messed up. It's so messed up. Our students, our youth are still in a messed up education, hurting during COVID. Like, the differences is surmountable. And even more than that, our health care. From black women dying in childbirth, so much more than white women.
300% greater
Black
chance.
people dying so much more, and indigenous dying more than anyone. When they're the smallest number. Like, there is so much injustice in this country, and if you were here 2 days ago, we were talking about, like, y'all need to be educating yourself on this. Because schools aren't going to do it for you. That Thanksgiving dinner, which honestly, hello genocide, you shouldn't be having it, isn't going to do it. It's not. Your families, I wish they would do it, but we're learning from how many racist parents y'all got. Like, you gotta be educating yourself. And you gotta educate your neighborhood. You gotta educate your classroom. I'm gonna keep doing it, but I don't wanna do the chanting. Because at the end of the day, y'all, this is so much more than police. Like, it is so much more. Like I just wish y'all got it. Cause sometimes I wonder, I'm about to have a surgery, for example, and I was telling someone that I'm probably going to either do the surgery in like Atlanta or DC or somewhere where there's a lot of black people so I could find a black doctor. This person's like, well, what if the doctor here's just as good? Well, the doctors here are white. And in this country, there's a history of white people and white doctors messing up black women. So I'm done with taking those chances.
Amen.
And those things, like, it is so much more than police. Like, I just wish you guys could do... I just encourage you to do, like, homework and be like, what are the ways black people are disenfranchised in the U.S.? Or what are the ways black people have been hurt or brutalized by the healthcare system, or the education system, or the law system, like, or the library card system, literally any system.
Not just the criminal justice system that's fucked.
It's really not. Like,
It literally is
and
not.
I
This is
just,
just one part.
I just said that like every white person here is racist, and y'all aren't police. I hope.
I'm surprised if one of you guys end up being the police. I'd be upset.
But you know that goes along with saying like it's not just about police, and I think we come out here and talk about much more than police. I hope maybe we should start talking about it more. But today I had a conversation with my little sister's principal and the assistant principal because the fucking teacher told her Black Lives Matter is political and told that teacher off. And when I got to talk to the black lady of the school that was a part of this investigation, I told her ass too. This Black Lives Matter shit is not just about the police. It's in the schools too. It's in the schools too, and it's starting there. It's starting there where you're gonna teach my young one that a teacher can shut her down and tell her the color. I'm sorry, ours. TK is getting sensitive. Can teach our young one that the color of her skin is political. So then when she goes out there and something does say happens with police, she has fucking teachers in the back of her head telling her this shit is political and she should have shut up and stopped fucking talking about it. It's beyond that. It's especially in our schools. Especially in our schools.
Literally, this education system, this year, I got the privilege to drive one of my students back to their school, Graham Hill, and threw the textbook on the table, and I'm like, why does it say that white Europeans in the U.S. had indentured servants that were willing to come to the U.S.? Why does it say that? At Graham Hill, a predominantly black school, why does it say that?
Yeah.
Because when we look at integration, one of the worst parts of integration, you kick black people out from teaching, and you had white teachers who did not want those kids to be there, spit on them, yelled at them, threatened them, and are still teaching them lies to this day. I mean, Ruby Bridges, for example, y'all need to look it up. Like, there were own teachers who left the school. Teachers who threatened to poison her. There's only one teacher in that whole entire school that wanted her there. And those things get passed on. It's generational PTSD. It's generational trauma that continues to get passed down.
Racism is fucking passed down too. They told me today, literally, and Tika can vouch for this because we were both on this call, that it's okay for teachers not to agree with Black Lives Matter being human rights or it being political as long as they don't talk about it. No, the fuck, it's not. They are teaching these children. They are teaching these children. And the lady called it a luxury now that they can look back at the Zoom calls and see what these teachers are saying to them. Thank fucking God. But this teacher has been a teacher for, we said 4 years, but I don't know what she was before that. But at this school for 4 years. And there wasn't cameras in the classroom before that. So what the hell is she doing? Teaching these kids. Why the fuck is she even talking to these kids when she's supposed to be an ASL teacher? My fucking ASL teacher didn't talk to me. Never heard that lady's voice. The hell are you in there talking about Black Lives Matter and cops for? Like, it's some bullshit. It's some bullshit.
Especially if you're telling them they can't bring their political views to the classroom. Well, obviously that shit ain't working. Your training and your equality bullshit ain't working.
They are founded on equity at Pierce County is what they say. They are founded on equity.
Right idea,
Well, I'm fucking done with equity. I need liberation.
For real. It's some reparations. God damn it.
Yeah.
Because ain't none of us free till we all free.
Can I bring up one more thing real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
So, I love that enthusiasm. So, a while ago, not too long ago, actually, there was, Sophia was speaking about this being beyond police brutality, and that made me think about the season. We're getting close to, like, the holidays, you know, and, like, Christmas is a big thing, and Black Friday, and all these things, Cyber Monday, whatever else there's going to be, all of that is like capitalism. Like that feeds directly into capitalism, and I feel that that's important because all this money, all the wealth that is in America is in the hands of only a few, and that shouldn't be. Like, how many? I always say, like, how many cars can you drive at once? How many watches do you need to have on your arm?
How high can you
Hell
Too
But,
high.
like, my point is that people need to think about these things and break it down. Like, you don't need to do, like, Black Friday, you need to do Cyber Monday. Like, if you're afraid of losing, sorry, my voice is fucked, I've been yelling this week, but if you feel like you're losing some kind of tradition, and I understand, like, there's, like, a feeling that comes with this, and there's, like, you know, the people, and, like, the smell in the air, and, like, whatever, like, create something new. Like, create a new tradition. Like, maybe this year, like, I don't know, I'm not gonna give you the idea, but you dream up your own idea. Like, you don't need Christmas or, like, whatever, and if it's for religious reasons, I'm not gonna go into that, but, like, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to feed into these things. Like, you can make your own thing and, like, make it consciously.
My fucking dad. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you say Kwanzaa?
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
celebrating Kwanzaa. How long?
Yeah.
Can one of you please, I'm so sorry, explain what Kwanzaa is to me? Because my fucking dad has so many kids. He said, this year we're not celebrating Christmas, we're doing Kwanzaa. And so listen, we're invited because Kwanzaa, from my understanding, you get gifts.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. No, there was nothing. He said it's just candles.
No.
I didn't get shit.
There's some gifts, but each one has like a meaning to it. And then also there's like each day represents a theme within the African American community, and then also takes parts of different parts of Africa. And so like say one candle, pretty sure it's Ubuntu, which is like I am because we are, and it's this idea that whatever I do is going to come back to my community, and whatever my community does is going to come back to me. We're all connected. So like once we abolish the SPD, there's going to be some Ubuntu happening, helping our community. And so for like that day, you would go out and do something to help your community.
And I'll also say that, like, there are many Black people who also are, they're anti-Kwanzaa, I guess, anti-Ubuntu. Yeah. Come again?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No,
Keep
no, no,
talking.
please, like,
No, I was saying you shouldn't be. It's a beautiful holiday.
Well, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, the Kwanzaa was, started, was it by the Black Panther Party? Okay. And so it's kind of like a recent thing. And
They weren't the only ones, but they definitely had a big hand at least the new. Keep talking. I'm gonna do some research.
Thank you. Speaking with a few members of the community who wanted to add something to Kwanzaa, an extra, their self-defense. Some members who have been doing Kwanzaa for a while do not like that because it interrupted their traditional rites. So the group, when I was speaking, they decided they respected that and they kind of brought their own like adjacent policy. And I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Like, if you're under Kwanzaa or if you want to put something to Kwanzaa or like whatever, like make something. Like, do what you want to do. But, like, be respectful and make sure you get your mind straight. So, Kwanzaa or no Kwanzaa, I think like as long as your heart is in the right place, it's all good. And you know, like if another black person comes up to me like, I don't fuck with Kwanzaa, I'm like, cool.
It's all good, my nigga. You got to, it's good. I think that's another thing we all should realize. We do not have to all believe, well, in this movement we do. Let's not get Black Lives Matter, you can't disagree. You feel me? You can't disagree on that, but like, as far as like what you believe in, what you celebrate, we don't all have to agree on that.
Yeah.
It's okay to be different when it comes to those types of things. Even just as people, it's okay to be different.
No, it's not. Who told you that?
Tachi's just messing.
I mean,
Don't freak out in the comments.
Like, the forced put shit, so like, I'm not down with that. Independence Day for who?
America.
So, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't fuck with that.
But more so like actual real tradition is what I think you're talking about. Like people that come from outside of America and bring their traditions with them. Those, not the cake and bam that
Not the bullshit they taught you here.
Yeah, let's roll out because it's super late.
We all got you.
All right, malcontents, let me lower the camera.
Who's Andy?
No, not pointing at the ground for nefarious reasons. We're wrapping up. I really don't know how much you can see of me. All right, here, we'll do spooky face maybe. I'm so scared. Just doing bad Blair Witch imitation. I don't know what to do. This way? I guess that's okay. That works. All right, malcontents. Brad, I'm my own gaffer. I'm Cam. I'm Cam Hawks, talent, sound engineer, and gaffer. There we go. There we got the lighting good. It's about as good as it's going to get. All right, malcontents. I think that's it. I haven't done EDM in too long, and I love going to EDM because there's always these amazing conversations, and TK and Tati always continue to amaze me with their wisdom that goes far beyond their years. And I hope some of you found this enlightening, and I hope some of you will go and think about some of the things that were talked about tonight. And some of the facts that we dropped that I was talking about, we have that in the stream, and we also have some slides, and we'll get that information, I think, up on our social on Twitter tomorrow. So we can follow up on those numbers that we were talking about King County Prosecutor's Office. That data was from February 2019 until January 2020, so that was the most recent data set that was available. And with that, it's going to get dark because I can't turn the thing off and hold the light at the same time. So there you go. Spooky vision. Malcontent. You can't, my fingers are there, I promise.